Movies take a staggering amount of money to make, and nowadays, any budget below $50 million is considered mid to low range. That level of spending usually works out in the end, since movies also make a staggering amount of money, but not all producers are lucky enough to earn back their investment. In the case of these films, the films did so poorly at the box office that they're considered cautionary tales in Tinseltown. The 13th Warrior. Adapted from a Michael Crichton novel, The 13th Warrior is loosely based upon the myth of Beowulf. While the film earned some recognition for its expensive set pieces, those costly moments ended up ballooning the film's budget to $160 million, while the box office returns were only $61.7 million, leaving the film with a deficit of almost $100 million. The movie's failure to find an audience is a bit of a puzzler, since the source material was by a proven best-selling writer and it was directed by Die Hard's John McTiernan. But no matter the reason, the end results were so embarrassing that the co-star, Omar Sharif, ended up briefly retiring from acting in disgust. The Adventures of Pluto Nash. Eddie Murphy used to be a reliable hitmaker, with successes in everything from action-adventure films to zany comedies to movies that required him to suit up for almost every character. He even had some successes on the family film scene, with Dr. Dolittle and Shrek confirming that kiddos like to laugh at him just as much as adults. But his star power burnt out somewhere between those films and The Adventures of Pluto Nash, because the film earned back just $7.1 million of its $100 million budget. It's not hard to see why the film fared so poorly. With mediocre special effects, a confusing and unfunny script, and a nonsensical future setting, even Eddie Murphy's big name couldn't save the film from flopping hard. Stealth. Rob Cohen was behind the lens for a number of hits, including The Fast and the Furious and XXX. But his box office streak took a serious nosedive when his aviation actioner Stealth crashed and burned at the box office. The film followed a crew of Air Force pilots trying to control an artificial intelligence jet, but instead of being a compelling adventure movie, it was more like a science fiction parody of Top Gun. It grossed just $76 million against a $135 million budget and made good on its title by sneaking away from the theaters largely unnoticed. Sahara. Based on a massively successful series of books about a rugged adventurer with a quick wit and a way with women, Sahara looked like it might be able to recapture the magic of Indiana Jones. Unfortunately for everyone involved, the built-in audience for the books didn't translate to a box office success, and Sahara grossed a modest $119.3 million. That wasn't enough to cover its $160 million budget and $81 million in distribution costs. Part of it could have just been poor timing, since the movie starred Matthew McConaughey before his star power returned in full force with The McConaissance.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
But either way, the studio was parched after this movie's returns. Mars Needs Moms. Disney's experiment with motion capture performance, co-produced by legendary director Robert Zemeckis, seemed like a good idea on paper. And Mars Needs Moms wasn't conceptually off the mark either, as it followed a 9-year-old trying to save his mom from aliens who wanted to harness her powers to juice up their nanny bots, which is the stuff of fairly standard family fare. But while the film's effects were cutting edge, they gave an almost uncomfortable eeriness to every character's facial expressions. And rather than an exciting adventure or a surreal nightmare of a film, the movie ended up being a snooze. Audiences on Earth didn't have much interest in it, handing over just $39 million in ticket fare against a whopping $150 million budget. The Mouse House might not usually have trouble wrangling in the kiddos to see their animated features, but this movie marked a major write-down for the studio. Speaking of Disney flops in outer space, John Carter. Based on the seminal works of Edgar Rice Burroughs, which influenced everything from Star Wars to parts of the DC universe, John Carter seemed like a sure thing on paper. In practice, though, the film felt ironically derivative and trite. John Carter managed to make $73 million domestically, with worldwide sales barely pushing the film past its $250 million budget. Considering it took around $100 million more to market the movie, Disney took a hefty loss on the would-be tentpole project. The title hero of the film might be less affected by gravity on Mars, but here on Earth, he was brought down hard. R.I.P.D. The title of this film is an acronym for the Rest in Peace Department, a special police force that takes care of renegade spirits before they can affect the human world. It's basically Men in Black with a supernatural twist, and the casting of Ryan Reynolds as the upstart partner to Jeff Bridges' grumpy mentor seemed like a no-brainer. Unfortunately, the movie was pronounced DOA, barely making back $78 million of its $130 million budget. While the failure of certain films can sometimes be attributed to poor marketing, studio interference, or even rival movie releases that are oddly similar, the blame for R.I.P.D rests pretty entirely on the film itself. It's relentlessly unfunny. Bridges and Reynolds seem like they're so bored with the script that they might as well be on the other side. But hey, maybe they were just method acting the whole time.
Tough day.
The Lone Ranger. The character the Lone Ranger is a classic part of American pop culture. Unfortunately for the makers of the 2013 reboot of the hit TV and radio series, however, the film was plagued with problems from start to finish. For starters, the film drew ire over casting Johnny Depp as the Native American sidekick Tonto, which prompted massive criticism over its decision to whitewash the character. Then there was the matter of its bloated budget, which was $215 million before marketing costs. And to top it all off, critics laughed at the film for all the wrong reasons.
Justice is what I seek, Kimosabe.
Maybe just pick a different hat next time? Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.